Hello, I'm Paul Drane. I'm fortunate enough to have been directing music on television for the last 40 years, since Countdown right through to Rock Whiz Today, and with lots of other music specials and series in between. And today, on Rage, I'm going to show you just a few of those clips. Countdown was amazing. It burst onto our screens right at the beginning of colour, and it quickly became the show to watch to see the hits and the antics of our great Australian stars. It was live and non-stop, so if something went wrong, we didn't stop, we kept going, we worked around it. Nothing was scripted. It was all ad-libbed, the dialogue and the camera shots. So it had a fantastic air of excitement about it, and I'd like to show you one clip now from Countdown, the way we remember it. This is Bony Moronie from Hush. Another band that we soon realised we were going to need to do something special for was AC/DC. We'd had them on the show several times and they were becoming so hugely popular. And Molly, with his unbelievable, uncanny capacity to recognise a #1 hit, knew that Long Way to the Top was going to do exactly that. So he said, we should think about doing something special. And Bon said, well, I'd like to include the bagpipes, maybe that would make it a bit different, And when I heard this, I thought, okay, well, bagpipes says to me, Moomba. And in Melbourne, for Moomba, what do? You put people on the back of a truck and you drive them down Swanston Street. So that's exactly what we did. And this is a clip that you all know, but what you might not know is that on the same day, I made another version, another clip of that particular song, which was just a straight band performance. We had rostrums, we put them in the city square, and we shot it like a normal sort of, as if it was on a stage somewhere. It was midday. But the reality is we never used it. I mean, it was fine, it came together pretty well, but the thing is we didn't use it because the truck version was just so popular. None of us had any idea that that would become so hugely popular worldwide. I mean, it's just been incredible. And Molly said to me one time, at that particular stage, he thought it was the most played video in the world. The biggest shame is I don't get any royalties. But anyway, I'm going to show you another AC/DC clip later, along with Cold Chisel and maybe some split ends. So please stick around. It's Rage. Hi, you're watching Paul Drane and we're talking about 40 years of music on television on Rage. Now, the next guy that I've got is somebody that we've all got to know over the years. He's a vibrant talent, hosted Countdown many, many times. Someone you all know is John Paul Young. Now, Yesterday's Hero and Lovers in the Air were, of course, massive hits for John. I mean, they were sensational. And I'm pleased to say that apart from covering him live in the studio a lot of times, I made the film clip for Lovers in the Air, the one that you would probably know very well. But there is another clip of John Paul Young that hasn't been seen quite so much. And this time round, we didn't tell John what we were doing, how we were going to shoot it or anything like that. So he got off the plane and we just arrived right there. My assistant, Margaret, she made like a journalist. John knew her, but he goes, what you doing? She said, shut up, I'm doing this journalist bit, So he went along with it all the way, as super cool. And so we followed him all the way to the studio. We shot a lot of stuff in the studio and the behind the scenes countdown sort of stuff as well. So it's just another look at a great song, I think, where the action is. We were so lucky on Countdown. We had just so many fantastically talented local and international people. It was amazing. It was a great vibe. One of the bands that does stand out a bit in my mind, and there were so many special people, but one, not just because of their performances, but because of their fantastic costumes. And you probably would guess that I'm talking about SKYHOOKS. They were amazing, and the way Shirley's presence on stage was incredible. And I'm pleased to say that I not only directed them on the set, but also I did a lot of concerts with them, and I did lots of film clips with them. And the one I want to show you tonight is This Is My City. And the reason why I thought I'd talk about this is because I had this great idea that we would shoot it, This Is My City, on the top of a very high building in the city of Melbourne. And we had the whole atmosphere. I even had a chopper in the air for a little while. But one problem, I have contact vertigo. So I don't like to be on the top of a tall building. I can hang out the door of a helicopter anytime you like. But you put me on the top of a building like this and I'm a bit of a wuss. So I'm very much concentrating on being on the centre of this building while I'm saying to the cameraman, okay, you guys go over there and get this great low angle, which will look fantastic right near the edge of the building, and it'll look like, you know, this and all that sort of stuff, while I'm standing in the middle and these guys are taking all the risks. Anyway, it was fantastic. The band loved it. They were great as always, and I was very pleased to actually get back down to Mother Earth afterwards. Over the years, I've been very fortunate to have had many memorable moments, but there is one moment that really stands out in my mind. I think it was 1979. I was directing the concert of the decade. We had a huge crowd on the steps of the Sydney Opera House. It was fantastic. The show was going really, really well. And next on the bill was Stevie Wright. Now, you have to understand, Stevie had not been well for quite a while before this concert. And everybody was a little bit concerned about how he might handle it. You know, it was a massive crowd and all that sort of stuff. Well, the second he walked on that stage, he nailed it. It was unbelievable, the atmosphere, and he just blew our minds apart. It was absolutely fantastic, and it was the performance of a lifetime, and I personally think it's a great way for us to remember him. Now we're coming to a band that was produced by Molly, actually, and ended up being another fantastic success for him. The FERRETS. And from my point of view, this is different because most of the time in those days we were shooting our film clips on film, literally, and this was a situation where we went into a studio that was quite small, and we only had 3 cameras, electronic cameras, and we had to do it live, or in one take anyway. We did several takes, but they didn't have any post-production facilities and I didn't have a budget for any post-production. And I think it shows, I mean, look, lots of us, we know that music videos are often done on a shoestring budget, but I think that they can often work. You don't need everything, all the whistles and bells necessarily that go into it. But this is an example of, you know, like you've got great music, absolutely beautiful people. They were a terrific band, and so enjoy. Now we come to a filming day that was long in title and long in reality. One of the songs was called One Long Day, and the band, of course, is called CHISEL. The fact that that song runs 7 minutes means that it's really the equivalent of 2 songs, and so it takes much longer to actually shoot. And, you know, most of the time on film we would be using 1 camera, sometimes 2, but you've got all these setups and it means that you're playing the song over and over. Now, sometimes that might be quite tedious. Not in this case. That music is fantastic. I love it. I still love it. All of the crew, we enjoyed it so much. It took a lot longer than normal to get that song in the can, but boy, it was absolutely worth it. And because this was their first album, Khe-Sanh was the single, but the record company wanted 2 songs for the launch. And so we did Khe-Sanh first, and then we did One Long Day, and both of them, I think they're sensational. They are a fantastic band, called CHISEL. I think they're amazing. And I've had the pleasure of working with Don in recent times as well, and, you know, with Tex and Charlie, and, you know, needless to say, his new music is equally fabulous. And that makes me think about recent times. You know, the current talent that's in Australia at the moment, I think, is amazing. I've had the pleasure of working with lots of them, again, in recent times, and I think they're fantastic. I love it. And you've got people like Courtney Barnett and the Drones, for example, and Adelita and Pete Tempel. I mean, you know, the list is absolutely fantastic. And actually, well, I think of it, some of those people are going to be performing in a live gig, which is happening in Melbourne at the Tote next weekend, the Saturday the 16th, as a tribute to this 40 years of music. It should be an awful lot of fun. They're going to do their own set, each of these artists. There are 17 bands, I think. So it's just non-stop music from about 3 o'clock until midnight. And then each one of them, after their own set, they're all going to do one song, one of the classics that I've directed over the years. So they're all, you know, sort of going to be a lot of fun. There's no question about that. So, but anyway, right now I'd like to show you a clip of one of these bands that will be at the Tote that night. And this actually is a first because it's only just been released. So you're seeing it for the first time on Rage. And this was actually recorded at a concert in Halloween. The song's called Witches, and the band is Graveyard Train. Hi, I'm Paul Drane, and you're watching Rage. We're looking at 40 years of music on television. And I'd like to include this next band because I think they were absolutely remarkable in their time, and they've stand the test of time. So talented, so different, and musically they just had everything. It was amazing what they were able to do. I'm talking about Split Enz. And the first time that they walked on my countdown set, I go, hey, what's going on here? They haven't got any instruments. They all had toy instruments in their hands. I thought, this is going to sound great. Anyway, of course, one rehearsal, and that's all it took for me to realise this is Split Enz. That's the way they were. And shortly after that, I directed this film clip for them, which was a lot of fun. We've had so many legendary bands in the show today, and it's been my pleasure to work over the years with so many talented people. This next guy is a bit of a national treasure, I think. We recorded his concert in a fantastic theatre in Toowoomba in Queensland, and it was a fabulous atmosphere. And it was the Stolen Apples tour, and he did many songs from his classics as well as the new album. And so here, the person that we often refer to as a modern day poet, enjoy Paul Kelly. Okay, I'd like to leave you now with another AC/DC clip, which also became a bit of a classic. After the success of Long Way to the Top, I heard Jailbreak, I thought, wow, I mean, I could just hear explosions and all of that. It was just crying out for it, you know, it's gunshots and stuff like this. So the band were really into the idea, and all I really had to do, the biggest job, was to convince the ABC Pyrotechnics department, which was quite young at that stage, that this would be really good for them to do a bit of a test and training on their skills and that sort of stuff, you know. Anyway, they agreed to that. So I found a disused quarry in Sunshine, and I had a very, very tight budget, so we could only do the explosions once. So that meant, and I had 2 film cameras on this shoot, but I had to be able to, A, get the shot at the right angle, and I was cueing the explosions live as we went through the song. So I had to get it right. I only had one take. Unfortunately, thank the living Lord, that did work. So that was great. So then we got on to the doors. Now, the whole idea was that we were just going to open the doors with the explosion. But because the guys thought, okay, we've only got one take, we don't want to muck it up, they just put a little bit more powder in, you know, just in case sort of stuff. So what happened, consequently? The doors were blown completely off the set. I mean, it was, you know, phenomenal. And I'm standing back there queuing the band to come out, and the cameras, I'm there, so I'm just going to try and hide somewhere, you know. But I didn't have an option anyway. I only had one take, and that was the camera with the wide shot, and the explosion looks fantastic anyway, so who cares about something like that? So the boys come out, and then you see Bond come out, and he gets shot and all that sort of stuff. But we couldn't do the close-up. I wanted to have that real fantastic thing about, you know, a blood pack and all this sort of stuff. So we couldn't do that on the day because I couldn't afford to have the makeup lady out there all day for one shot right at the end of the day. So we had to do that as a pickup. So we actually shot that in a tiny little weeny park quite near the ABC studio in Ripponlea in Melbourne. And it was sort of around lunchtime. So there was heaps of people there. And we were trying to get this really tight shot of Bond without seeing these other people there and not having any other sort of background and everything like that. Of course, the people thought we were crazy with what we were going on with there. But anyway, it worked an absolute treat. I mean, Bond was fantastic. You know, the explosion on the blood pack and everything, it all fitted in seamlessly. And, you know, it was one of those clips where we all just had such a great amount of, you know, it was such a pleasure to do that clip. So before you look at that, I'd just like to say thank you for having me on Rage. It's been great. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if any of you are in Melbourne and you feel like getting down to the Tote Saturday next, it's going to be a great show in terms of lots of great music and a lot of great talent. So, and it will also be a lot of fun. And I'd also like to say thank you to the artists and the camera crews that have worked with me over all these years, making all this music on television. It's been an absolute pleasure for me and an awful lot of fun, so thank you.